Go ahead and slide your jack underneath and raise the vehicle. Make sure you put a jack stand under the axle. Now that the car has its parking brake on and it's safely on the jack stand, grab the tire at 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and you'll feel play. I have about 1/4 inch of movement side to side. You can feel it, compare it to the other tire, but this one needs the wheel bearing hub replaced. Using your 36mm socket, go ahead and take the center nut off of the hub. If you're not using an impact, you can use a long breaker bar, but you'll have to have the weight of the vehicle on the tire and on the ground. Using your 19mm socket, go ahead and remove the lug nuts. Now we can go ahead and remove the tire. This would be a good opportunity to grease your top ball joint here. Using your 13mm wrench, we're going to go ahead and remove the brake caliper. So take off the slide pin bolts here and here. After removing the 2 slide pins, use a pry bar to pull off the brake caliper and brake pads. And set them aside. Make sure not to hang it by its hose. Since this is a 2-wheel drive model, you can now push the little false axle. Normally your axle would come through here, out, and set it aside for later. Now that you have the brake caliper and brake pads off, you can leave the brake caliper bracket. Go ahead and remove the brake rotor. Set that aside. Using your 12-point 13mm socket and breaker bar, go ahead and remove the 3 bolts that are holding the hub on. You can break them loose with the breaker bar and use a ratchet on the rest. Damn. Once all 3 studs are out, or bolts, you should be able to hopefully pull this off. Sometimes you can use a hammer. Go ahead and clean this from any rust or dirt. This one's already pretty clean. At this time you can take your dust shield, clean the back of it, put it back on. You can use one bolt to kind of hold it in place there. And get your new hub bearing. Make sure the area it seats against is clean of any dirt. And start threading all the bolts in by hand. And then snug them up. Go ahead and snug all 3 of those hub bolts to 75 foot-pounds. Go ahead and get some anti-seize. This is some ceramic. It's the high heat stuff. I use it for brake lubrication. But go ahead and get some of that. Put it on the splines. To make it easier to come off next time. I mean, this one came out pretty easy. Really just slid out. But it never hurts. Go ahead and slide it in from the back. Got a new hardware kit here. Comes with our little retainer. A new nut, 36 millimeter. A new washer. And circlip. Never reuse these, I always put new ones in. We're gonna go ahead, put the washer on. You'll have a perfectly flat side and then a flat side with a slight bevel. The flat side goes towards the hub. Go ahead and you'll also have the same thing going on here. You have a perfect flat side and you have a little bevel. The beveled side, or I'm sorry, the flat side here goes towards the hub. Put it on by hand. This nut gets torqued to 175 foot-pounds, no less and no more. We will torque that down once we get the rotor back on and the brake caliper, and once we put the wheel on and torque it down, we'll be able to tighten this guy down to 175 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and reinstall our brake caliper and rotor. Make sure the hub here also has no dirt, anything that would keep the rotor from sitting perfectly flat on it. They usually come pre-packaged in some oil, keep them from rusting and make them look nice, but this is pretty clean. Depends on where you're working, if it's windy outside, all that stuff. So go ahead and grab your rotor and throw that back on. I like to take a few lug nuts to use to hold the rotor. Looks like we won't be able to get them all the way on, but that's enough. And lubricate the points that the brake pads rub against, not on the rotor. Don't get this on any friction surfaces. Just a little bracket right here. You'll also want to grease the slide pins. Go ahead and get those ready. And let's throw our brake caliper back on. Make sure the hose isn't twisted in any way, and it's just how it should go back on there. The wetness here is from the AC drain leaking down on it. And let's install these guys. Oh, come on. Go ahead and reinstall your tire. I like to install them by hand first so you can feel if any of the threads are damaged. You never want to put lug nuts on with an impact. You can take them off with an impact, but don't put them on with an impact. Go ahead and take the Jeep off its jack stand. And lower it to the ground. Go ahead and torque this center nut. We have the weight of the car, on the tire. Our lugs are not torqued, so you can do that if you want. Go ahead and torque this to 175 foot-pounds. If you don't have the tool, you can rent one from O'Reilly's like I did, and you get your money back when you return it. And that's it. Now we can go ahead and take our little retainer here, slide it over the nut, put our cotter pin in, and bend it around. And a little pry bar. There we go. Go ahead and torque your lug nuts in an even pattern to 100 foot-pounds.